YouTube founder community, Hollies fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we're here today to talk about one of my favorite Hollies releases, Love and Flowers. You might not have seen this one unless you're from Canada. This came out November 6th, 1967 in Canada only, and there's a little bit of a wacky backstory here. So, as anyone who's a fan of 60s music knows, between the US and the UK and other countries, albums were always broken up into different configurations, especially with the Beatles and the Stones and the Who to some degree. There's big differences between American releases and the English releases, and that's kind of the same with the Hollies. They had the same treatment as well. In 1967, they moved their American stuff from the Imperial Records label to Epic, who were going to put out their stuff from now on. And in the US, their album Hollies from 1965 was issued as Here Here by Imperial Records. Kind of the same album. They put Look Through My Window on it and kind of rearranged the track listing a little bit. But in Canada, that album was never issued. Instead, when Capitol Canada got a hold of the new rights through Epic, they put out a version of In the Hollies style, which at that point was a year old. So it's also crazy that later on down the road, here we are at the end of 1967, the Hollies are just about to put out the Evolution album, which was a game changer for them. And instead of putting that one out and being on top of it, they went into the vaults and took out a bunch of tracks from Hollies, actually most of that album, and then one song from In the Hollies style that wasn't used on the other version of the album they put out. And they created this. So I really, really love this album, though. I mean, you're basically buying the Hollies album, but slightly different track sequencing, and it makes for a great listen. I love the album cover. They were definitely going for that flower power kind of look at the time, but it just blows my mind that they were putting this album out at the end of 1967 because it sounds nothing like 1967. It definitely sounds like 64, 65, early 66, and it must not have done well for Graham in particular because at this point he had been to America and figured out that he was like, maybe I want to do something else, guys. So, I mean, beyond all that stuff, I do love it, but it is a bit of a head scratcher as to why they decided to put this out instead of Evolution. Anyways, You Must Believe Me is the opening track on this thing, and it's instantly just an earworm. I mean, the Hollies were known for their insane vocal work. They were right up there with the Beatles, if you ask me. I'm a sucker for that descending kind of chorus line and the way they jump into the next part. Just didn't happen that way. It's just so cool. Excellent drum fills from Bobby on this one. Just insanely catchy. Just non-stop catchiness. This album for me, the more I play it, the more I'm like, how the hell do they keep coming up with all these hooks over and over again? It's almost impossible that they have this bottomless well of catchy riffs and hooks. Pretty impressive. And again, it continues with Put Yourself in My Place. Again, I like kind of the elongated vocals after a bit of a pause. Punchy rhythm, the changes in the middle give it some texture. The real slinky, messy guitar solo and the harmonica brings a bit of a glee to it all, if you will, a little bit of a cheeriness to it. Really like this one a lot. Down the line, this is kind of a nice rubbery, clean guitar tone on this one. The build-ups to the jamming are cool. I think this song's a really nice addition to the album because you get a bit of them kind of opening up as musicians, not just focusing heavily on the vocals, even though they're amazing vocalists. But nice to hear them jam a bit on this one. That's My Desire, kind of a 50s throwback feel in this one, so I'm wondering if it felt outdated by the time this was initially released in 65. Certainly feels a bit outdated in hindsight, looking at it coming out at the end of 1967, the year we got, Are You Experienced, and Disraeli Gears, and Sgt. Pepper, and you name it. It sounds a bit outdated for reading about it now, but I still like it a lot. It's definitely the slow jam, dance kind of song. It's really not that bad. And then Lottie Miss Claudie, just rollicking, brash, in-your-face rock and roll. Real good splashy cymbals and cracking snare on this one. Very Chuck Berry-esque with the guitars. And the harmonica, again, I think is fantastic from Alan doing his thing with harmonica. Side 2 opens up with When I Come Home to You, which is one of my favorites on the album. That spooky guitar riff is so freaking cool. I just love the construction of this song. The vocals are magic, and the way the drums sort of accent the storytelling. I think it's fun and interesting, and it's one of those songs that constantly inspires you to write the perfect pop song because these guys were just masters at it. Fortune Teller, I mean, everybody did this song. The Who, the Stones, the Hollies. It was just one of those songs that was around and everyone had it in their repertoire at the time. If you were a band in the 60s, especially out of England, you were playing Fortune Teller. It's straight and to the point. I love it. I've always liked this song. No matter who does it, I've always enjoyed it. Great track. And then the last few songs on here are like some of my favorites on the album. So Lonely is cool and eerie, kind of excellent Birds-like guitar playing, but vocally compelling. It's a very mature sounding song on an album of kind of lightweight tracks. I mean, I use the term lightweight very loosely, but you know what I mean. It's kind of a cheery, upbeat album. This one's kind of a mature, grown-up song, if you will. Not saying the other ones aren't grown-up, but you know what I mean. I've Been Wrong, probably one of the best Holly songs I've ever heard. There are so many catchy hooks on this thing, it's dizzying. It's non-stop, catchy, riff-tastic energy, insanely amazing vocals, excellent song construction. It's just genius stuff. It zooms by, and it's one of those things where it's hitting you over the head constantly with how catchy it is. It's almost like eating something that's too sugary. I mean, it's almost too much, but it's so good. It's one of the best Holly songs they ever did at that time, of their pop era, if you will. I absolutely adore that song. And then the last song on here, I Thought of You Last Night, is from In the Hollies Style. And I like it as a closer here. A charming little acoustic number, real kind of a sleepy dream pop, hypnotic, repetitive kind of thing. It's easy on the ears and it works really well as a closer, especially after that last crazy track. The chime accents are nice, the really breezy vocals are relaxing and extremely memorable. It would have fit really well in Beatles for Sale. It's kind of got that autumnal vibe, if you will. Here's the back cover. I wish I could have chosen a better picture for the back cover. You can't even see these guys at all. There's blurry blotches, but I do like the text, and the layout is cool. It's got the other albums you could buy, and everywhere it mentions Canada, which I think is great. First published in Canada, 1967, November of 67. Capitol Records Canada, LTD, all that kind of stuff. Let me show you what the record looks like. You know the drill. Rainbow Color Band. Very cool to see the Hollies on the Rainbow Color Band label. Something you just don't see. I picked this up because I had never seen it before, and I've had this for a while now, and it's something I've wanted to review for a long time, but for some reason I kept putting it off. But it's in duophonic, classic duophonic stereo, our favorite kind. I love it. I know it's definitely kind of an abomination to some people to, break up the original albums from their original construct, but I'm a sucker for that stuff. I love all the Beatles wacky things. I love the weird Stones versions that came out over here. I like collecting those songs, figuring out where they came from and how they became this new album. That to me just blows my mind because a lot of that stuff just disappears to time. After a while, you just forget that existed and things just become canon from the original release, and those other ones just kind of disappear or they become a curio. Like with this, I've only seen it in person one time, and it's the time I bought it, and it was expensive. It was not a cheap album. It was more than I've ever paid for a Hollies album, I'll put it that way, but it was definitely not something I'd normally kind of drop. But I knew it was rare because it's from Canada, and I'm quite a drive from Canada, so I was like, all right, it's something I should hang on to, and luckily enough, the music's fantastic, so it's something I'm going to keep forever. But I love this thing. It's got the 6000 series on it. It's just, I love just seeing that Capitol look. I just love that era. Very cool release. Great picture of the guys. I love the font, the text, the colors. It's bright, it's happy. It's the Hollies. Love and Flowers. Shut up. So, yeah, that's it. Easily 9 out of 10 for me. Love this thing. Hands down. Excellent, excellent album. It works really well the way they sequenced it and the way they kind of programmed it and packaged it together. Definitely love that kind of stuff. 9 out of 10. My name is Giggens. This has been the Hollies. Love and Flowers with the Hollies from November of 1967. And that's it. Tell me what you guys think about this thing. Do you have it? Canada people, how common is this up in Canada? Do you see it in the bins constantly? Because in America here, I've seen it once. I've been buying records for a long, long time. This is the only time I've seen it. So let me know about that. Very curious to hear about Canada in terms of how common this thing is. So that's it. My name is Giggens. Thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.